I know we all want to hear some stories. I don't know if we want to let somebody else come up before Martin, because I know he's going to close it out.
Well, why don't I start a real quick one?
Or you can kick it off. I'm just playing with you.
I know. So, I'm Martin Smith. I grew up 3 doors down from Mike. I was 5 years old when I met him. He was 7. And the very first day I met him, we had just moved in, it was 1970. And I go to the school bus stop, and I'm standing there, and I see this kid that, is playing in the dirt, doing all kinds of things. He has cars, and I'm going, wow, he's got a real, cool Matchbox set. I'm thinking to myself, where'd he get that? So we get on the bus, and he hauls ass, as his terms were, to the back seat. I'm like, whoa, I guess that's his seat back there. So he comes up to me, we're at lunch out on the playground. He said, hey, you're the new kid around here, huh? Like, wow. So I remember this. The reason why it's important is so that Friday he asked me to spend the night. And I'm like, oh, God, this is cool. He's got a great Matchbox and everything. It's going to be a lot of fun. And, of course, Steve in the back of the room, we had to kick him out of the room so I could sleep in there. And Betty, Steve's mom, said, well, you can sleep on the couch, Mark can sleep in the room with Mike. So he says to me, he says, you got to bring the big wheel. I'm like, oh, gosh, okay. So I bring my big wheel down. Mike was a little bigger than me. I was small. And he pushes me in the big wheel. And, we're going real fast, no pedaling anything. So I hit a Pepsi can that happened to be in the street, and the front end flips over. And I drag my back a little bit, and this is when I realized who Mike was as a child. And a lot of times when you're a child, you carry those same feelings and attributes all your life. So Mike was very creative. So instead of doing that again, we went into Eldon's workshop, his dad's workshop, and Mike gets a couple pieces of copper tubing and puts some hose clamps together and makes a roll bar on the back of the big wheel. Let's try it again, Marty. Well, no, it's your turn. No, you got to try this out. Make sure it works. I can see this already. So we tried, it worked, everything's great. His turn, we got the roll bar going. And as soon as that worked out, Mike said, well, we got to get a jump. Right? So here comes the jump. So that's the creative part of your father. So advance a little bit. Your dad was very caring, right? He was very caring. And, as he grew up, he had the hots for a girl in the neighborhood, which is sitting over to the right. And I think it literally started when he was like 12. I'm like, who's this girl, So it was funny. And as we grew older, I started noticing all these caring feelings coming out. And he must have been on at least 10,000 trips with my family. So every Friday night, we would load up the Scout, which you saw a picture of my family, and we'd go somewhere in the state of Arizona. And Mike can tell you, we covered the whole place. Like Powell, you name it. And there was a piece that, I think we were about 8 or 9 now, and we were building forts. So we had these really cool forts. So we had a pretty big backyard. And my Uncle Bob went with Mike and I, and we got a bunch of wood, and we built it outside our fence. And outside the fence, Tom and Larry, some of the neighborhood friends, they all had access to this cool fort. And you go out there all the time, the locks would all be broke off, right? So this wasn't going to work anymore, right? So my dad, being a real estate guy the way he is, Mike and I went to him and said, we can't build forts outside the wall anymore. We got to build them on the lot, on your yard. So Dad deeded us a corner of the property, and we had to sign it, and it said we'd keep it clean and no debris and all these crazy things as little kids. So we started building underground forts. We became quite the carpenters. We could build anything, he and I. And it was great. We had more forts than you could imagine. And just about that time, Eldon gets Mike the Honda 70, and Steve will remember this. So Mike, the creative Mike, you couldn't just have a standard Honda 70. You had to have chopper forks on it. You had to have it powered up. You had to have it bored out, everything you can imagine. I get a Honda 50, and my mom and dad said, no, you're not driving that on the street. We're not going to see you get killed or something. Okay, I think there's enough room in the backyard. Bring your Honda 70 down, and I'll do the Honda 50. So we had a racetrack in the backyard.
Yeah.
Mike decided, since I couldn't join him in the desert with my Honda 50, well, the heck with it. We'll just race it in your mom and dad's backyard. So I'm trying to do this quickly. So then we, 10, 11, 12 years old, we wrestled, we played baseball, we did everything. Went to Rocky Point with my parents. We went, my grandpa would take us deep sea fishing because mom and dad weren't up yet. Because those of you who speak Spanish, no te me noche mucho borracho, right? So grandpa would take us deep sea fishing. We caught a shark. We caught all kinds of different fish. And we'd bring them back and show mom and dad. Great experiences down in Mexico, Lake Powell. And then the big stuff started to hit. So he turned 14. Badass. I think it was 12. He was a badass motocross racer on bicycles. I don't know where his trophies all went, but he must have had like 250 of them, I kid you not. And he was awesome. So he says to me, do you want to race? I said, yeah, sure. So he loans me his bike, and I didn't have the proper get-up. I'm following your dad. Sure, let me try it too. I can do it. So he gives me all his racing gear, and I race it. I didn't do so well. I fell down, but he's like, oh, you'll figure it out, Irv. Come on, let's go, Marty. So he never gave up, right? It wasn't in his heart. And so his adventures we started to do, so he turns, I think he's 14. And we're way up at Pumpkin Center. So those of you that don't know where that bar is, it's by Roosevelt Lake. And so my uncles and my dad, we couldn't get them out of the bar all day. So Mike and I are playing horseshoes, pinball, and all kinds of stuff. And it gets to be about 6 o'clock, and it's dark, and we're camping way up in the mountain. And I'll never forget it. My dad hands the keys to Mike. He's 14. You're going to drive the Scout, dude. You think your dad said no? Oh, yeah, I can do it. So we got a bunch of drunk uncles. And he's driving the vehicle. And the next thing they said, stop the vehicle, throw on the roof of the Scout. And Mike and I are sitting in the Scout by ourselves. Pretty cool, huh? I'm like, he's 14, I'm 12. I'm like, let's go. That's how your dad learned how to drive a vehicle, truly. And then after my dad realized he could actually drive, so then Dad started pulling the cart a lot more. He's 15, he didn't have permit. Oh, he's fine. He's driven forever. Okay, Dad, we're in Cole's Ranch. It's 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday, and it's pouring down rain. Well, Dad, you can't drive home. I can. And Mike's like, wait a minute. I got to call my mom and tell her I'm not going to school tomorrow. So then he gets his license legally. And Betty, his mom, used to let us take the car. Oh, this is really cool. And this is where my friend Larry and Tom come in. We decided that we could go out gigging frogs, right? And not even let Betty know. So we went out gigging frogs, and a couple of them still lived in there in the trunk. And we get in the trunk, we realize a couple of them are gone. Like, uh-oh. Well, it turns out Betty got in the car and she could hear a frog. She didn't know where. We couldn't find it either. So then he's 17 years old. We're at Chow Mountain High School together, and he said, you know what? This is not really for me. My dad talked to him for a long time, and well, there you see it to the right. So he was 17, went to Germany. He was gone for a long time, had a wonderful time. Literally the day he comes back, he comes up to our house. He's in his suit, looks great. And it's ironically enough a Friday, and we're all loading up to go to Rocky Point, Mexico. Oh my gosh, here's Mike. So we're all talking. Get in. He said, okay, let's go. You just got back. We got to go tell Betty, his mom. Well, yeah, let's go tell her. I'm going. The day he got back. So advanced a little bit further, and we had a real good night one night together. let's see, so I'm 20, I was 18. And we've been drinking a little bit at Larry's house with Tom and everybody over there. And Mike and I look at each other, it's about 3 in the morning, and we said, well, let's go fishing. Who does that, right? Let's go fishing. Well, where do you want to go? Well, I want to go to Paradise Creek. Paradise Creek is up in Pine Top. It's kind of a little bit of a drive at 3 in the morning when you can hardly see, right?
Maybe you should do it.
Nothing, that's right. So we take off. Mike has no gas in the car, and I have about $2.50 on me, literally. Like, how are we going to get there, you know? So we made it, we got some gas, we made it to Payson. I had some money in my savings account. We had to wait for the bank open. So I get the money out of the savings account. We drive all the way up to Pine Top. I get us a place in Murphy's Cabins, which is a really cool cabin place. So he and I were going ice fishing, and we've got a Rambler. We don't have a four-wheeler. So we go to this lake, and it's iced over and everything. We come hauling in, as Mike would say, so we could get in. We don't know how we're going to get out later, but we certainly got in. And there's these 3 old boys sitting out on the ice on these ice sleds or whatever. So I get the tire iron out of the back and walk out on the lake by him. And Mike, of course, asks me, you do it. You know, dig the hole with the tire iron. We didn't have shovels or anything. So I break through the ice, and it's probably about a 5-inch diameter hole. And these 3 old boys that are over here watching this, laughing their asses off. Trust me. One of them walks over and he says, throws it down. It's an auger. He says, well, try that out. No, the first thing he said to me was, well, how big a fish do you plan on catching? Oh, yeah, I can't get it out of the hole, can I? My line fits down the hole, but I can't get the fish out. So we do the auger real quick. We met these guys, and I ended up catching one about 17, 18 inches.
Wow.
We go back to McNary. We're in there showing the clerk or something. The sheriff pulls up. Oh, boy. We've had a few drinks. And this is back, 80, 84, 85, when the cops were cool. So I show the sheriff. I'm like, look at the fish I caught. He's like, you caught something else too, didn't you? What do you mean? So he says, all right, guys, looks like you're having a great time. I'll follow you back to Murphy's cabin, but don't leave there again, or we're going to have a real problem. So Mike and I did that. So through the years, we stayed together. He married Tammy, and of course, we were there when you boys were born. We did so many things together. And what I realized all through the years, 53 years together, was the attributes when he passed, he still had. So going back to a child, he was always caring. He had a big heart. He was extremely adventurous. He never said no to my dad, even when my dad had gyrocopters. Sure, I'll try it, Rod. Sure, let's put it on the back of the Scout. Yeah, you can fly. He was creative, and one of the most things that he was, to me, was a dear friend.
That's right.
Thanks.
That's right.
Who's next? Tom, Larry? Come on, Larry. Tom, you guys got to share something from his growing up years that all the kids in the room don't know about. Great friend, great guy. Steve, Kathy, we had a blast, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Oh, by the way, anything with 2 wheels on it, which you guys kind of saw the pictures with the wheelchair, it had to go faster than the other guys.
There you go, Tom.
Thanks, sir.
Hello, I'm Colin Peretris. I grew up with Mike as well, with Martin and Larry, and
Can't hear you.
didn't pay attention. Right. These are all my experiences, and they know we're not right in the head.
You
You can
don't
come up here and talk.
this.
Larry's hard
You
of
press
hearing.
this.
Hear what you say.
Okay.
I said, these are all Mike's friends, and they know we're not right in the head, so come on up here and talk.
Get up there. Come on. Don't swear. Get up. Just go. the character if you don't want to. Let's go.
There you go, Larry.
I'm not good at it either, Larry, but come on, you can do it. You got some stories with Mike, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So my name.
Exactly.
Can you guys hear my dumbass?
Yep. We can.
Mike was a really good friend of mine. I've known him since grade school with Martin and everything. But what he became as a man, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
And he was just a wonderful man. Anywhere we'd go on trips, we'd go camping trips. I don't know, people would flock to him. They loved this man. He was a person that was so, I don't know, he just knew how to get along with everyone. A man that you would just say, God damn, this is a good man. And he was a very good man like that. And he would sit there and get along with everyone. You couldn't get mad at him. Him and I had some conflicts. But I'll tell you what, you couldn't be mad for very long. He was such a good man. And what I'm trying to say by that is, shit, I'm breathing up here. Yeah, I'm not good at this. You know what? I don't do this.
You're doing
You're doing great, Larry.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. He's one of the best friends I ever had. Yeah, I'll tell you what. He'd be a friend to every. Of course he is. A friend to every one of you guys. But he'd be a friend to everybody else too if he met him tomorrow. He's just a perfect guy. Yeah.
Yep.
Nothing more to say to that shit. Gotta take that shit.
Thanks, Larry.